No matter if points are gained or points are lost, there will be much to discuss. For analysis regarding tonight's Winnipeg Jets game, here are Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg, and your host, Drew Mandel. The Illegal Curve post-game show, presented by Play Now, the official sports betting partner of the Winnipeg Jets, starts now.
Good evening, Winnipeg. Good evening, Manitoba. And for all those joining us live this evening on our YouTube channel and all of our social media platforms, we say good evening, universe, and welcome to the Illegal Curve post-game show with Dave Manouk, with Ezra Ginsburg. I'm your host, Drew Mandel, here to talk about a disappointing Winnipeg Jets defeat at the hands of the Vegas Golden Knights by a 4-3 margin, a game in which the Winnipeg Jets, I would say, didn't play poorly, but got a stark reminder about what happens when you get a little bit sloppy and take a shot. You lose the attention to detail that has made you so successful so far this season. Gentlemen, great to see you both on this Friday night. To me, the Jets, this is the kind of game from the Jets' perspective that you have to take to overtime. There's 1 point sitting there for the Winnipeg Jets in tonight's contest, and possibly 2 points, except for what I would describe as self-inflicted errors and sloppiness, the likes of which we have not regularly seen from this Winnipeg Jets team.
I think that's a good summation, Drew. I think that, that was a game in which you thought with Perfetti's second goal that you thought, maybe this one, Neil Pionk's goal, that this one's going to overtime. And obviously it's a big night for Oakbank, Manitoba, right? With Brett Howden scoring a couple goals. But obviously, the Jets had an opportunity there late, and they even had a 6-on-4, a brief 6-on-4 after Eric Comrie was pulled in the second half of the power play, right? So it was a close game. Like, look, the first period obviously wasn't very good. The Golden Knights were all over the Jets. Even though the Jets scored the first goal, I think we'd all agree that that first period was pretty lopsided. And that's been kind of a theme, right? And that's something that, you could either chalk up to, this is, the fifth game of a 6-game road trip, or, it's just not being prepared, whatever you want to say, or just giving the Golden Knights boys credit for being a great team, right? Like, a lot of people at the beginning of the season, a lot of people were picking the Oilers and the Stars to win the Stanley Cup, right? And obviously we're not going to get into Stanley Cup predictions right now, right? We're way too far away, but I wouldn't want to play that Golden Knights team in the playoffs. And I don't even know if it was mentioned on the broadcast, they were without Mark Stone, one of their best players, right? He's been out, I think, for 10 games now. So the Golden Knights look pretty good without Mark Stone. Yeah. And you got to look, the Jets came back from 2 1-goal deficits, tied it up. And obviously, boys, a big story of this game, coming out of this game, I should say, is going to be the health of Nick Ehlers. It looked like a pretty innocent-looking exchange there. And obviously, he factors in on Perfetti's first goal in a big way, right? But if Nick Ehlers is out for any, extended period of time, that's obviously not going to be good for the Jets. Probably something we'll get into more on the Saturday show. But, we also have to mention, guys, like, there were some surprises, right? Like, I wasn't as surprised that Comrie started, because I think we all agreed he'd probably get 2 of the 6 starts on this road trip. But Dylan Coghlan, guys, not only does he play his first game of the year, he's out there on the second power play unit, right? So give the coaching staff credit, and he looked good on the second power play unit. So, Logan Stanley hadn't played in a while. We'll obviously get into that a little bit more. He was coughing up the puck. There was an exchange in the third period. He coughed up the puck twice. I thought he was struggling out there. And, you got to give him the benefit of the doubt, Dave. He hasn't played an NHL game in a long time. But I just thought putting Coghlan and Stanley both in at the same time, when both of them hadn't played in a while, maybe was not the right choice.
Well, I mean, one of the two of them would be definitely not the right choice for me. And I'm sure you guys know by now, and everybody who's been watching the show for many years know which one of those two I have no time for anymore, but the organization obviously still does. And that's certainly a topic of conversation, probably more so, as you said, Ezzy, for tomorrow morning, where we can really get deeper into that. But to me, Dave, this is just a game where players who you don't expect to make errors for the Jets made those errors. You know, you expect, guys who you expect to know their D zone coverages better screwed up their D zone coverages. And with a team like Vegas, we know how opportunistic they are. We know how quick strike they can be. Tonight, and this is not the fault of Eric Comrie by any stretch of the imagination, tonight those pucks ended up behind the Winnipeg Jets goalie in their net, and ultimately it costs them at least 1 point. Just by guys who typically know better and who typically know where they need to be in the Jets' own zone, were freelancing a little too much. And you just simply can't do that against a team the caliber of the Vegas Golden Knights.
Yeah, I think it's fair, Drew. I think if you look at the way, I mean, there's probably no better example from what you just talked about was Adam Lowry on that second goal. I mean, how often do we ever see Adam Lowry kind of caught in no man's land watching? And you never see that with him. And to me, that was kind of an indication. I was like, what is going on? Like that's a very unusual play for him, for someone who's so defensively responsible. So, that to me was somewhat indicative of the point you just made on this broadcast. And yeah, I think, I was surprised by the inclusion. I mean, Ville Heinola got 2 games, and I'm not saying Ville Heinola was anything, but 2 games is not exactly a window or a runway. Sorry, that I thought that they were going to give him a little more latitude. And again, we may see a platooning or a rotation, right? But to me, the Colin Miller Ville Heinola pairing, I don't know. Like I would have been fine if they pulled Fleury and put Coughlin in or something, and then maybe move someone else to the left side. Like to me, like it was not a Miller and Heinola's problem, right? I didn't think that swap really made a lot of sense. And even just like I said, like the maybe it would have been a good idea to get David Gustafson in the lineup, get a little fresh legs there, because you've got him. I mean, look, all we've heard about is how murderous this road trip was. And one of the things that Scott O'Neill talked about was using his bench and using the depth that he has at his disposal, right, Ezzy? And so you've got a guy in David Gustafson has he played like what, 1 game this season? Maybe 2?
Just 1. I'll look it up, but I'm pretty sure it's just the 1.
And again, remember, we're not the ones who we're not putting words in Scott O'Neill's mouth. He put the words out when he talked to us, a month ago, and he said, I have a plan. Okay, fine. Well, his plan, they kept winning, so the plan changed. That's fine. Nobody's holding, it's not a court of law. He's not going to be held to a standard to say
just 1 game.
Just the one. So far, yeah. But I'm just, and again, don't get me wrong, I'm not suggesting that somehow David Gustafson is the savior to this game but I'm just saying that you get guys into the lineup who have fresh legs, and maybe on a road trip like this, where we're talking about, Pittsburgh, Nashville, Minnesota, LA, Vegas, Dallas, you've traversed all of America, not literally, but you've gone far. To me, I would have gotten some, Coughlin. I like the idea of throwing Coughlin in. And I just thought maybe get Gustafson in to get some of those guys, some guys who are clearly pretty tired, because like you said, Drew, we're seeing mistakes that they're making that they shouldn't be making.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think those are just mental fatigue mistakes. Sometimes that's just what happens when you're fatigued. And I know that, everyone says, first class travel, no big deal. It's not the travel. I mean, to some extent it is. It's just the number of games you've played in different cities, game after game after game after game. And I know that, we all want them to be robots, and we all think that they should always be at the same level and have the same, mental fortitude, but they're human. And I thought you saw the human frailty of the Winnipeg Jets on display a whole heck of a lot during tonight's contest. Vlad Nemesnikov is a guy who is typically in the right spot and knows who he needs to cover, and he didn't in tonight's game, when it mattered the most. And Adam Lowry, typically 98 times out of 100, is in the right spot. He might not necessarily execute every single time in those 98, but it's very rare that you're going to look at a video and they're going to look at videotape and say Adam Lowry is completely in the wrong spot, but he was tonight. And so the Jets fought hard, which I think you can take a fair bit of solace out of if you so choose to do so. You don't have to. It's a free country. You can do as you please. But I do think that you saw just that is, I think, why you can chalk up some of those issues in tonight's game. Just that the Jets, this road trip, which still has one more game to go on it on Sunday against Dallas, is, I think, catching up to them. Now, it doesn't get any easier. It's not like they're home for a significant stretch. They come home for one game and go back out on the road. So the schedule is doing them no favors, but the schedule doesn't do anybody any favors. So it's time to dig deep into your reserves from now until, Christmas, till, after that game in Toronto on that Monday afternoon. The Jets have to find a way to scratch and claw and keep themselves from sinking further in this hole. And I know people have been saying, well, they've lost 3 of their last 8 or 5 of their last 8, or they're a sub 500 team over the last little bit, and that's all very right and true. So now it's incumbent on the Jets. They have to at very least tread water, by which I mean the 500 record, from now through the end of through the Christmas break, just when they can finally exhale and get a little bit of that time away and the ability to recoup and recuperate moving forward, as
And another punch in the gut is that Dallas is beating Colorado tonight, right? So Dallas
and Minnesota won earlier.
Exactly.
2 points
it's crazy. I'm with Dave. Like I don't think, maybe it's because we're in Winnipeg and we cover the Jets, but to me it's absurd that the Wild are that close to the Jets, right? With the cushion that the Jets created for themselves with all those wins, 15 of their first 16, right?
2 best teams in the league. It's just like when the Jets and the Predators were the 2 best teams in the league back in
17-18.
In 17.
No, I'm aware, Drew. I'm just saying that it's unlikely. That's what I'm saying. It's that nobody expected the Jets to have the start that they had, and then B, for the Wild to have almost the equal start that the Jets did. That's what I'm saying. It's just very unlikely based on what we thought might happen, but that's obviously why you play the games, right? But I'm not sure what game everybody else was watching, but this was a fairly close game, right? Like I realized that you're not going to be happy with the fact that you weren't able to get it into overtime and that you didn't have Ehlers, but I thought Alex Iafallo did a nice job stepping up in Ehlers' absence, and obviously they had to switch the lines a little bit as well. You had Nemesnikov and Kupari on the same line as well, because you had Nemesnikov kind of doing double duty, playing with Kupari and Barron on the 4th line there. But I think that, the Jets turnovers, that obviously an issue, the fact that they weren't able to come up with a big power play goal late in the game. This game was played obviously for the most part at 5-on-5. There weren't a lot of penalties in this game, but again, the Golden Knights, I look at this team and I think you have to give them credit here. If you take away the records here, guys, and you were looking at this game at the beginning of the season, you'd say, yeah, that's going to be a tough building to go into. The Jets have had trouble winning in Vegas. Look no further than Pavel Dorofeyev, right? He's got 12 goals on the season, picked up an assist in tonight's game, playing on that top line with Eichel and Barbashev. This is a 3rd-round pick, and everybody points to, the Golden Knights never draft and develop. Well, that looks like a draft and develop a pretty good player to me, right, Dave? So this Golden Knights team is really good. We talked about it. Brett Howden, 2 goals. That's your 3rd line with William Karlsson and the former Devil Alex Holtz, right? And this defense, right? You're going to most likely have 2 guys on this defense on Team Canada at the 4 Nations, obviously being Pietrangelo and Theodore. Looked like Braden McNabb might leave the game when he blocked that shot from Kyle Connor. And that's with Zach Whitecloud out of the lineup, right? Caden Korzak is playing for Whitecloud. So what I'm trying to say is, even though Aiden Hill's been a bit shaky in between the pipes, this is a very good Golden Knights team. It's not a coincidence that they're in first place right now in the Pacific. And the Jets, like we said, they punched back. They came back from 2 1-goal deficits, and
it's not a sky is falling loss.
It's not a sky is falling. I'm just saying it was a close game, and
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Sometimes it's the difference is like we said, Brett Howden, I think it was Nemesnikov who lost Howden in front of the net there on his 2nd goal. That's all it takes. A split second, right? That's all it takes sometimes, boys. This is a game that could have gone either way. I don't care what anybody says. The Jets were right in there when Pionk scored that goal. It gave them new life. So, I would say, the Golden Knights deserved to win that game, but I'm just saying that this was not last game. The Jets had more of the shoot mentality, shot mentality. They played a lot better than they did a couple nights ago in LA. So you got to give them credit. Sometimes you got to say that your best just wasn't good enough, right?
And the only thing I would add is that, remember, as you just said, it's not like the Jets just lost to the worst placed team in the NHL. I mean, Vegas is the leader of the Pacific, actually remarkably similar in a lot of areas, right? Because they score almost as much as the Jets. They give up more goals than the Jets. Their power play is the second best power play after the Jets. Their penalty kill, coincidentally, is 20th when the Jets were ranked 19th. So there's a lot of similarities between these two teams. So you wanted to see how they were going to respond. And also an unusual start time, 5:30 game in Vegas. Again, we're not complaining because we have a show to do in, less than 12 hours. So we're not complaining that it's not the usual 9 p.m. start time or 9:30. But look, you wanted to see how the Jets would. This is the first time they've lost when scoring the first goal of the game all season. And I just think, like, at the end of the day, it's a learning, it's one of those learning things that you have to be able to grow from. But at the same time, you had opportunities to get, like you said, Drew, this was a game that you needed to earn at least a point, not because, oh my God, you're desperate for a point with 36 already in the standings bank,
right,
but more from the psychological perspective of just like, we've had a tough road trip. This has been a slog, but instead of being, potentially 3-2-0 or 2-2-1, you're 2-3-0. So it's a little bit of a tougher way of looking at it.
I agree. Let's get into it. We break it down goal by goal on each and every edition of the Illegal Curve post-game show.
The Play Now game recap.
The Play Now game recap, a key component of the Illegal Curve post-game show. Big thanks to our friends at Play Now for their continued support of the Illegal Curve post-game show. Don't bet on illegal sites. Bet with Play Now instead. Manitoba's local, legal, and secure gambling site. 18 plus. Enjoy responsibly. The Winnipeg Jets, you know that they wanted to get off to a better start given how poorly they performed on Wednesday night in Los Angeles. And the Jets did just that. Cole Perfetti, you can stop hearing about how he hasn't scored in 11 straight games because he scored early. 6:57 into the first period of tonight's game. It's a deflection off of a Josh Morrissey shot. Nikolai Ehlers sets up the entire play by using his speed and turning Alex Pietrangelo inside out. He has the initial shot. The puck moves around onto Morrissey's stick, and Perfetti goes to a dirty area in front of Aiden Hill, gets his stick on the tip, and the Jets lead 1-0 about 7 minutes into the first period.
Yeah, this is all Ehlers' speed, just pushing everything back and everyone back and creating a lot of chaos in the Golden Knight zone because everyone starts scrambling around here, right? Because he gets the rebound off the initial shot, makes a nice cross pass to Morrissey, and Perfetti goes to the net and gets a stick on it, right? And as he talked about during the first intermission, right? Like it was, he kind of just said it was fortuitous. You go to the net, sometimes good things happen, right?
Yeah.
And on this particular play, this is just a great display of Ehlers' speed, and it's not an average defenseman back there. It's Alex Pietrangelo back there, right? And so, Alex Pietrangelo couldn't handle Ehlers' speed, and like we said, it's not just the speed; it's what happens off of the speed. Like we said, it creates a situation in which the Golden Knights are scrambling a little bit, and got to give Ehlers credit not only for that rush, but for identifying that Morrissey had jumped up into the play. And he was in a great position to either take a shot or obviously make the pass to Perfetti. So shot on net, tipped by Perfetti. So just nice to see Perfetti get his first goal in 12.
Yeah, exactly right. For a guy who absolutely desperately needed something good to happen. He got close on Wednesday night, hitting the post against the LA Kings. A guy who's confidence can wane at times, and he himself has talked about that, and he's trying not to be as hard on himself when the puck isn't going in the net, Dave. But that this meant a fair bit to Cole Perfetti. You saw the relief etched all over his face after he scored this goal, because it just is that one fewer talking point for people like us, and for him to have to answer regarding now that he got the puck in the net and is credited with a goal in the ledger for the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about it that he knows, Mike McIntyre's on the road. He's writing articles and his coach is saying all the right things. But at the end of the day, he knows that what happened to him last year, 20, what was it, 23, 24 games without a goal. He doesn't want that narrative to continue. This is all about kind of like that whole, you know, uh, remember, he took a kind of a prove me contract and it was looking good early on, right, Ezzy? But eventually it kind of got going. So it got going in the sense that he wasn't scoring. He gets the goal, the Jets get on the board. And, remember, Vegas really kind of had a good start to that game. And I actually thought Eric Comrie was good throughout the course of this hockey game. And you've got a 1-0 lead. And we should credit all the Jets fans that were in the building, right, Ez, because they created kind of a fun atmosphere in Vegas. You could hear, again, through the television, at least, the kind of going back and forth with the crowds in Vegas. So it created a little more of a fun atmosphere, I think.
Yeah, Vegas is always a great place to watch a game. There's always a lot of road fans. It doesn't take very many people much of an excuse to jump on the plane, head from Winnipeg to Vegas, especially when it's a little bit on the chillier side. So I'm sure, like always, when the Jets head the road, there's plenty of fans in attendance. So 1-0 for the Jets at this point, and they're pushing for that second goal, and they get close on the power play. Brett Howden is in the box. Jets aren't able to score, but you think, okay, no worries. They're going to get out of this first period with a lead, which would have been significant. And then everything goes to poop late in that first period, and it starts with an uncharacteristically poor play by somebody who's traditionally reliable, and that is Morgan Barron. Soft. It's a soft pass by Barron trying to hit Logan Stanley at the offensive blue line. It gets intercepted by Brett Howden, and now you have Logan Stanley standing still, trying to catch up to Brett Howden. So Stanley in a chase position is never a good position for him to be in. That's just not his strength. Frankly, I'm not sure what his strength would be against a team like the Vegas Golden Knights, but that's a separate issue for another day and another time, perhaps tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. But anyways, Brett Howden steals the Morgan Barron pass. He blows past Logan Stanley, who can't catch up to him, and then Howden makes a nice move, beats the outstretched Eric Comrie, and for a Jets team that looked like maybe they were going to be up 2 goals, instead at the 18-13 mark, it's tied up at 1 goal apiece.
We're not going to spend too much more time on the Morgan Barron turnover because obviously, I mean, everyone saw it there. It's unfortunate. Like Drew said, uncharacteristic of Barron. He's a guy that's usually taking the puck away as opposed to giving it away. And you're right, Drew. I mean, like Brett Howden has all the speed and Stanley's in a chase position, as you said, where he's flat-footed, so he's just coming from behind. Got to give Dylan Coughlin a lot of credit. He gets pretty close to getting a stick on Brett Howden on the breakaway, so you got to give him credit there. But obviously, a pretty egregious giveaway that leads to a goal. And Morgan Barron has been a good story on the fourth line, but that was one that cost them for sure.
Yeah, again, just the story of the game, uncharacteristic plays from guys who are traditionally reliable and are traditionally known for making the smart play, the easy play, the responsible play. This time, complete opposite, and it ends up, unfortunately for the Winnipeg Jets, in the back of their net, which speaks to, of course, the quick strike aptitude of the Vegas Golden Knights, one that's been on display since they really entered into the NHL all those many years ago. 1-1 at this point in time, and you're okay. Now there's a minute 47 to go in the first period, and you think, okay, no problem. We'll go after 20 minutes, tied up at a goal apiece. Instead, the Golden Knights take the lead with 16 seconds to go in that first period. It's Ivan Barbashev, his 11th of the year, assist to Dorofeyev and Jack Eichel. And again, it's a situation where this is not a dangerous play. This does not appear to be a play of high concern to start, Dave, except for another player who's not characteristically making this error. Adam Lowry makes an error. He's taking nobody. He's, I think, confusing the situation. It was obvious when you watch the replay who his guy was. Instead, he decides to freelance a little bit. And what happens for the Winnipeg Jets? The worst case scenario, which is a puck behind Eric Comrie and a 2-1 Golden Knights lead after 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's a backbreaker for sure in this period, because the Jets, despite the fact that they started off slowly, Drew, had started to build some momentum, right? And you were feeling it obviously with the Perfetti. Fine, you give up the goal. It's unfortunate, as you and Ezzy just went over, but I remember watching this play live, and I was thinking to myself, like, I don't know what Adam Lowry's doing. Like, I could see it kind of. He just didn't seem himself. Like, I was watching this, and I was like, I'm watching him kind of skate around. Then I'm like, well, why is he chasing into along the boards when Pionk is there? He doesn't need to be there, and now he's leaving someone open, wide open in front of the goal. And so, sure enough, they get the shot on net, and Fleury tries to block it, but then the problem is he doesn't actually tie up his man in front. So Barbashev is wide open to get that rebound. The rebound is easily put into the net. So I mean, it's a breakdown after breakdown. I mean, you've got Lowry. I really actually blame Lowry on this goal, to be honest with you. I mean, to me, this goal is directly his fault.
Right.
And then Fleury as a secondary option definitely doesn't help his goaltender any by not tying up his man, right? That's pretty basic hockey stuff. So unfortunately now the Jets are down 2-1, and it's tough because it's only 15 seconds to go in the period, and you've given up now 2 goals in 93 seconds, which we know is getting that crowd kind of amped up in Vegas.
It was at the end of a long shift, Dave. I think that was part of it. The third line had
for sure
some zone time, so I think that was part of it. You could actually see on the replay, it looked like Lowry was even pointing to the bench, even though there was only 15 seconds left, just to maybe get some fresh legs out there. But you're right. I mean, it's still his responsibility to make sure that Dorofeev doesn't get that shot off, right? So again, it's not the tight defensive coverage that when the Jets are at their best,
right,
they're just not giving up those types of kind of, like, there's just way too much time and space for Dorofeev there. And then like Fleury, he obviously was there with Barbashev. He could, maybe get a little bit better body positioning, but it was kind of a weird thing. Barbashev kind of jumped at Fleury there, right? Like, so it's just, you said it, Dave. It's a backbreaker to let in a goal. To go from going into the break tied versus going into the break down a goal, obviously, is not ideal. But that's kind of, as Drew said, the attention to detail was there. The Jets, again, this was not their best game. It was a better effort than it was against the LA game, but that's all it takes to get, especially, this applies to any team in the NHL, right? Like, didn't the Sharks score another 8 goals tonight? Like no one.
Yeah, they beat Seattle. They punched Seattle in the face. Like it was 8-2 or 8-3.
Yeah, so like that's kind of been a little bit of my narrative here through the first quarter of the season. It's been very unpredictable and wild, right? Like it's high scoring.
I think the reason for that, Ezzy, is, and people might laugh at this, is that with this schedule and all these teams playing this silly schedule of games just crammed together, it's hard to stay at that level required night in and night out. It is very difficult. So what happens is, if you have a rested team, or when so many of these teams are really, frankly, not that different from one another skill set wise, the middle, let's say the from team number 12, from the 12th place through the 27th place in the league, there's truly not that big of a gap between those teams.
Nope.
They're all relatively crappy some nights and relatively good other nights. So you catch a team in the right night, or you catch a team in the wrong night, and you end up with some of these silly scores. That's what you have. You have this, mushy middle of parity, and compounded by the fact that all these teams are playing way too many games in way too few nights, so that they can cram in a 2-week tournament so that they can make some more money. I mean, you're going to end up with games that are just really utter cluster bleeps that all throughout this league, not necessarily related to the Jets specifically, but that's just what you're going to see around this league, I think.
Right. And the point I was really trying to make is that in a tight game like this, there just wasn't room to allow those types of chances, right? And we saw that with the game-winning goal, right? Brett Howden's second goal, right? Like these are preventable goals, is what I'm saying. And it's difficult, I think, as people who analyze hockey, right? Like, you have a good team, so you have like Barbashev was a huge part of the Cup win 2 years ago on that top line with Jack Eichel and Jonathan Marchessault, who won the Conn Smythe, of course, right? So I mean, like these are skilled players. These are some of the best players in the league. So it's easy to pick apart and say this, but like that's really what it comes down to. And when the Jets are at their best, they're not allowing teams. They're more smothering, and obviously
they're not giving up the middle of the ice. Think about the goals tonight. How many of them are coming in the middle of the ice? Many of them, and when the Jets are at their peak, they're not giving up the middle of the ice at all. Or for teams, it's such a bothersome, it takes so much effort to get to that middle of the ice against the Winnipeg Jets. Tonight, it was a little bit easier for the Vegas Golden Knights, and like it was for the LA Kings on Wednesday night. To the Jets' credit, though, and I do think that this speaks to the Jets' never give up attitude and the fact that they are a better than mushy middle team. They keep fighting back in tonight's game. Cole Perfetti gets his second of the year. It's with 5 minutes and 32 seconds to go in the second period. It ties it up at 2 goals apiece. It's also the
Seagram shot of the game.
Big thanks to our friends at Seagram's as they continue to support the Illegal Curve post-game show. Whatever you might be drinking on this Friday night, please drink it responsibly and make sure it's one of the great Seagram's products. Perhaps Seagram's VO, integrity, tradition, and craftsmanship. It's not only the slogan for Illegal Curve Hockey, it's also the slogan for Seagram VO. Big thanks to Seagram's for their continued support. Josh Morrissey gets the primary assist on this goal. Vlad Nemesnikov, the secondary assist. It's a situation where the Jets are coming in on Aiden Hill. It doesn't appear as though it's going to be a tremendously dangerous opportunity. The face-off, in fact, is a 50-50 face-off, one in the Jets zone. They come in 3-on-2. Morrissey with a very educated shot on Aiden Hill. It shoots it off of the far pad. I know it's sometimes these guys are very skilled and they shoot for a pad for a rebound. This is beyond juicy. This is, something that no goalie should ever give up a rebound this sizable into this spot. Aiden Hill kicks it right onto the stick of Cole Perfetti, who makes no mistake. He's now feeling confident as Alex Iafallo continues his net drive on the 3-on-2. Perfetti gets the rebound and wires it past Hill to tie the game up at 2 goals apiece late in the second period, Dave.
Well, first of all, I love the fact that Josh Morrissey plays that aggressively, because if he sits back at that faceoff with Nemesnikov, they're obviously not going to get that kind of opportunity. So you love the fact that he's aggressive in that regard, and then takes the puck in. And you're right, Drew. That's obviously he's not shooting to score. I mean, if he scores, he's not going to say no, but he's obviously trying to set up a rebound with Iafallo going to the net, with Perfetti in the area, and amazing what a difference you score a goal and how much more confidence you have. And you could see it. Cole Perfetti, no question there, as he deposits that one into the back of the net. And yeah, I mean, look, if there's one silver lining in this game, is that Cole Perfetti might have some good feelings coming out of it, even though his line mate took a bit of a bump a little bit later on. But yeah, this is a huge goal for the Jets. And you're right, Drew. It's a good sign, because the second period, you didn't know how it was going to go. And to see the team kind of, have to kind of, what's the word I'm looking for, like evolve a little bit and try and get back into this game, they needed to do something different. And this was a bit of an aggressive pursuit by Morrissey, and it ends up leading to the game time goal.
Especially with Ehlers now out of the lineup, out of the game at this point in time. So remember, the Jets are now playing one forward short, as it's a makeshift second line with Alex Iafallo getting the bump up to play with Nemesnikov and to play with Perfetti. So it's great to see them have that success in this instance, even without Nikolai Ehlers, who has really been the primary driver of that line so far this season.
Yeah, Dave makes a really good point. I mean, this is all based on the aggressive play and speed of Josh Morrissey out of his own zone, right? I think if I'm not mistaken, it was Keegan Colasar who he beat on that battle, because it was the second line with Hurdle, Nicholas Waugh, and Colasar. and it's 100% by design that Morrissey can see where Perfetti is. That's the thing, and that's most likely why Morrissey's going to be on Team Canada. It's plays like that, right? Like most defensemen can't make plays like this and just see it. Like he sees this developing. He can see that he's got Perfetti on the left, and he can see that if he puts that puck on Aiden Hill's right pad, that there's a good chance that it's going to go right to Cole Perfetti, right? So you love the fact that not only did Perfetti score a goal and get off the schneid here, he adds to it. And like Dave said, hopefully that's going to continue into the game against Dallas and so on. But just a really similar to Ehlers on the first goal. I mean, you can directly point to these players and say, like, they created this goal with their speed and hockey IQ, right? So a really impressive goal. And again, the Jets, not again, but the Jets came back from another 1-goal deficit later. But yeah, a really impressive goal from the Jets there.
Yeah, so 2-2 after 40 minutes. The Golden Knights don't take long in the third period to regain the lead again. It's Ivan Barbashev, his 12th of the year, assisted Jack Eichel and Pavel Dorofeyev. That line, very difficult for the Jets to handle tonight. They were all over the ice, and they were certainly effective for the Golden Knights. And what you have on this one, it's a bit of a bad luck goal from perspective. Alex Iafallo is in the right place, and he makes a nice defensive play to break up the pass. Unfortunately, they all lose track of where the puck goes, and it goes to where Jack Eichel recovers it first. And by the time everyone else notices where the puck is, Barbashev is in just the slot in the perfect shooting position, and Eichel finds the puck first. He finds Barbashev, and Barbashev makes no mistake in rifling it past Eric Comrie. Just, it's amazing how the puck, for years now, seems to be able to always find the Golden Knights when it needs to. And Jack Eichel, given that he's a superstar in this league, certainly always ends up finding the puck just a half second before his opponents can. This being a perfect example of that. Iafallo, because he's trying to track the puck, is a little bit out of position. He's now in a chase position, and by the time he is able to sort of gather where the puck is and gather his wits, the puck is already behind Eric Comrie. Dave.
Oh, I didn't know if you were going to me or Tezzy. I didn't know.
It was your turn.
You usually say my name, so I usually get an indication. Yeah, I mean, this is, as you said, now, first of all, throughout the course of the shift, we have to mention the fact that Eichel was gliding around the ice with very little resistance, right? As he was cutting like a hot knife through butter through the Jets. Nobody was really, I don't know if he took a stride, but he certainly was gliding around the zone with the puck, somewhat unmolested. And so, that's a little bit problematic. And on this play, look, I agree with Drew, and that's how I saw it. It was very fortunate. The bounce off of Iafallo's off his skate, and it went right to him. I don't love the way Fleury plays this. He's a little bit soft. Pionk hits Eichel over to him. And then again, there's just too big a gap between Fleury and Eichel. And it gives Eichel that opportunity to get that pass over. And this is probably the only one of the goals that I think was scored on Eric Comrie that I think he'd probably want to have back, because Barbashev shoots it from a distance. So it's not like, again, don't get me wrong, I'm not a goaltender. It's easy for me to say that from here, from my comfortable red seat. But at the same time, I'm just saying, I think if he could have one back, it'd probably be this one. Fair. But I just think that the Jets defense, it's like I said, it's unfortunate. But the one thing you have to take into account, even if you want to give them the credit in saying it was unfortunate, was the fact that the Golden Knights had the puck for, a good 30 seconds before that goal goes in, and nobody took it off of them and nobody got rid of it. And nobody cleared the zone. So even though there was a fortunate bounce that preceded the goal, the sequence just before it indicated that the Jets were a step behind everybody, right? That to me was the problem.
That's a mismatch, guys. The Eichel line against the Nemesnikov line with Ehlers out, with all due respect to Iafallo, that's the Golden Knights top line versus that's essentially like a third line, right? At that point, that's not really the second line anymore. With all due respect to Iafallo, with Ehlers on it, it's your second line, but that's a mismatch first and foremost. And this is just my own opinion, but Dave mentions, Fleury, there's a little bit of time and space. Like, he's right there, right? Like he's poking his stick out, like, but that's the difference. Like, they say football's a game of inches, but like that's the thing. Kupari is with Barbashev, and then he loses him for half of a second,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's like nobody's like. It's not like the Jets aren't trying there. It's not like effort is the problem there. It's the execution, right? Like, it's just, you have to be against a team like the Golden Knights. You have to be that good, especially against that line. It's so line, like Drew said, like, the question for so long was, is Eichel really a superstar, right? Like, he's drafted second overall after
Yes.
McDavid. He's, I think, now third in the NHL in scoring after tonight, because I think he was fourth in the NHL in whatever it is. He's third or fourth in the NHL in scoring right now. So the answer is yes, Jack Eichel is a superstar and he's a Stanley Cup champion, right? So on that particular play, that's all it is. It's like Fleury gives Eichel a little bit, and it's a beautiful pass by Eichel to Barbashev, right? Like, we have to give Eichel credit here, but that's all it takes. There's a little bit of separation between Fleury and Eichel, and then Rasmus Kupari just, he doesn't stay with Barbashev, even though, he's right there. He just, that half of a second or a second, loses him, and that's all it takes. And the puck's in the back of the net.
That is all it takes for the puck to be in the back of the net. You're right about that, Ezzy. So 3-2 at this point for the Golden Knights. But again, to the Jets' credit, 4 minutes and 12 seconds later, they win a face-off in the offensive zone. And this, to me, looks like a set play. A lot of it is a set play. Kyle Connor gets the puck over to Hayden Fleury to Neil Pionk. And there's 2 layers of traffic in front of Adin Hill. Those layers being Gabe Vilardi and Mark Scheifele. Neil Pionk with the seeing eye shot that Adin Hill certainly did not see, and it finds mesh behind him, and the Jets continue to fight. They continue to show their fight in tonight's contest, and they tie the game up at 3 goals apiece, with Neil Pionk getting the credit for his 4th of the year. You like the fact that the Jets go to where they need to be. They're not being a perimeter team in this instance. Yes, the goal is from the point, but the traffic has to be there. You have to take the eyes away from Adin Hill for this puck to get a chance to get past him, and it does, and the Jets get credit, and it's a full line effort. Everybody is involved with this one, starting with Vilardi winning the draw, Connor to Fleury to Pionk, Scheifele in front as well. So the 5-man unit executes well to tie the game up at 3 goals apiece, Ezzy.
Yeah, and it's the top D pair out there. McNabb and Theodore are out there for the Golden Knights. And like you said, Scheifele and Vilardi off the faceoff. You win a faceoff, and Scheifele and Vilardi make it difficult by going into the slot. And then we know Neil Pionk, he's having a great year, and we know he has done this so many times before, and Josh Morrissey's able to do this as well. They know that, a little bit of traffic in front, they know how to place their shots. And so you're right. I mean, this is just, speaking of execution, we kind of lauded the Jets for their lack of defensive execution throughout tonight. But offensively, this play was executed really well, because that's exactly what you want to do, right? And these games are starting to blend into each other a little bit, but how many goals, guys, did we see like this, in these games that we're talking about, right? Like, you see a face-off win, and the puck goes back and then if you have some good traffic, obviously it doesn't work every time, but how many of these types of goals are we seeing on a nightly basis? We're seeing almost 1 or 2 of these goals, whether it's the Jets or the team they're playing. And so, that's sometimes the style of play, because there obviously wasn't a lot happening off of the rush in this game, just like there wasn't a lot happening off the rush in the Kings game. So that's the type of hockey you need to play. And obviously, they punch back, they tie the game up. Unfortunately, we know what happens next, but you got to love the fact that the Jets kept punching back when they were down a goal.
Yeah, and what happens next, of course, is the Golden Knights score late in the game with 4 minutes and the 5 seconds to play. Brett Howden, his 10th of the year, assist to William Karlsson, Wild Bill still at it, Shea Theodore, the secondary assist. And it's everybody's watching Wild Bill Karlsson with the puck. Guys who typically know who their responsibility are, Vlad Nemesnikov in particular in this instance, are just watching Karlsson and they're trying to go everyone at Karlsson. Unfortunately, they leave a 10-goal scorer in Brett Howden wide open. Great pass from Karlsson. He's tremendous at passing, and he feathers this one through a number of Jets sticks and skates, and Howden is able to slide it past Eric Comrie. Ultimately, it's the game-winning goal, and the Jets have to be ruining this defensive breakdown, Dave, with 4 minutes and 5 seconds to play.
Yeah, I mean, the Jets are well positioned. They're back. They have the numbers, and yet the goal is an easy tap in for the Pride of Oakbank. It's a tough one, and it's a tough one to lose with 4 minutes and 55 seconds to go in the game, and you fought back. You've lost Nikolai Ehlers. You can at least take a little solace in the fact that, hey, you know what, we're in this. We're fighting our way back into these games. It's it's a tie game. At least let's get to overtime. Let's try and get something out of this. Let's try and salvage. Let's try and create some good. Because again, like I said, it's better than the LA game, which you only created 14 shots on net. So you're feeling a little bit better about yourself in that regard. But this is Nemesnikov starting in the neutral zone. In the neutral zone, he was kind of like, look, that
lost.
I think, Drew, you said it in the outset of the show. We're seeing a lot of guys make mistakes that we're not typically used to seeing guys make that mistake. And it happened, a number of times throughout the course of this hockey game. And it's a tough pill to swallow because, you've got a bunch of guys watching the puck and they're not paying attention to who their man is. So instead of everybody, watching Karlsson and Nemesnikov, again, like I said, in the neutral zone, he seemed confused and he's too late, and Howden has an easy tap, and nothing really Eric Comrie can do at that point to stop that, because it's just it's a good pass by Karlsson, but it's just a poorly executed defensive zone coverage by the Jets.
I've got the clip here up, guys, and I've got it frozen right before Karlsson passes the puck to Howden, and you've got Dylan DeMello, Cole Perfetti right close to Karlsson.
Yeah.
And then you've got Nemesnikov also watching Karlsson. Like Dave said, there's a lot of puck watching here.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a 3-on-4, 3 Golden Knights players, and
Exactly.
4 Jets are back. Right? Like, so it's not a question of, it's not an odd man
I said
situation.
you have the numbers.
Right? Yeah. So it's just a question of the assignments. And yes, I mean, we talked about it, right? Like, because of the Ehlers injury, Iafallo, but that's no excuse. Just because Iafallo is playing on the Nemesnikov line doesn't mean that these guys don't know what their defensive assignments are, right? So again, 4 minutes left in the game, or just over 4 minutes left in the game. Like, that's just a critical mistake. Drew's right. This is lack of attention to detail. All of these goals really are lack of attention to detail. And it's easy for me sitting here at home to pause this, but really, it's just,
I would say
it's
the only
not good
one
defensive coverage. It just,
the only one that wasn't sort of terrible defensive coverage is the third Golden Knights goal, because that's more of a bad bounce
Fluke,
and guys are unable to track the ball at that point. But all the other ones are sloppy play by guys who typically aren't sloppy.
Again, Cole Perfetti. We talked about him last game where he made a bad play where he and Ehlers, no, maybe it wasn't last game. It was, I don't remember, but he and Ehlers had a chance in front of the net that ends up in the back of the net, and they don't do anything defensively. Here's another example. I mean, Perfetti is with his man, leaves him. So Morrissey now has to cover the man in front, which leaves Howden free because DeMello is on the on another guy. So if Perfetti sticks with his man, it leaves Morrissey free to at least get to Howden. And that's part of the problem, is that, you're talking about that attention to detail. So Perfetti is on, they've got that strong side. You've got all the guys on, as Izzy and I talked about, you had the numbers. So Perfetti, rather than taking someone, he again looks around, and I'm not trying to pick on him, but we have to break down the goal and see who's responsible, right? And that to me is an opportunity, because if Perfetti takes the man in front, it leaves Morrissey free to take Howden, and he doesn't. And as a result, you've got an unusual situation where you had 4 guys back. They have 3, and yet now Morrissey has to step up, take the man in front, because there's, then otherwise it's unencumbered. And I'm not saying Morrissey would have seen Howden, but he probably would have recognized, okay, I got to get across because Perfetti's got this guy. So it's a problem because, again, it's another mistake by numerous players. I'm not blaming one guy. I'm saying numerous players on the Jets line made a mistake on that shift, which results in the goal against.
I mean, you remember the game against Florida, the road game in Florida, where afterwards they talked about nobody liked the video. Everybody got pointed out for making a mistake during the course of the game. This is another one of those instances, probably where there's a lot of players who in the video review of tonight's game won't like what they saw because of the sort of a litany of errors that they've made in the course of the game, things that they need to clean up. Now, the question is, can they clean them up in time for Sunday's game against the Dallas Stars? Jets lose tonight 4-3 to the Vegas Golden Knights. A disappointing effort. The Jets look to finish the road trip at 500 with a victory on Sunday in Dallas. But of course, we have much more to talk about before that. So when we come back, we'll preview tomorrow's Illegal Curve Hockey show coming up in about 10 hours time. We'll do that. Probably the less said about tonight's Moose game, the better, Dave, but maybe you'll give a brief, not even. We'll talk about more on that tomorrow as well. Don't go anywhere. We'll preview tomorrow morning's Illegal Curve Hockey show when we come back on the Illegal Curve post-game show presented by Play Now.
We want to thank you for not betting with Play Now and choosing our illegal gambling site instead.
Because we couldn't afford things like this without your money.
So much of your money.
Now you might have questions like,
do our profits benefit your community?
No.
Or bet with Play Now, Manitoba's local legal and secure gambling site.
Dining, entertainment, parking, and convenience, all in one spot. City Place is located in the heart of downtown Winnipeg, attached to the Canada Life Centre. Whether you're working, living, or out for a night in the downtown, make City Place your go-to destination before or after the fun finds you. Lunchtime, game time, anytime, visit City Place at 333 St. Mary Avenue, next to Canada Life Centre. Holt Dental, the new official dentist of Illegal Curve, has a philosophy rooted in two unyielding principles: genuinely caring about patients and providing outstanding service. Being a patient of Holt Dental means more than just checkups and treatments. It's taking the time to listen and talk to each patient so they can achieve the best long-term health, functionality, and aesthetics for their teeth, mouth, and gums. Conveniently located at Grant Park Festival on Taylor Avenue, Holt Dental is dentistry of the highest quality in a comfortable and relaxed environment. For more information, visit holtdental.ca. Oh, and there's plenty of free parking at the front door, too. Celebrating its 40th year as Winnipeg's home for stand-up comedy, Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club has recently been named Canada's top comedy club and a top 5 comedy club in North America. From birthday parties to date nights to fundraisers and everything in between, Rumors is your destination for the best and most affordable live entertainment Winnipeg has to offer. For more information on upcoming shows, Rumors' incredible promotions, and to purchase tickets, visit rumorscomedyclub.com.
So you're a pizza person, you married a wing person, but somehow your kids are salad people. You can't pick your fam, but you can pick your BP meal deal, starting from $18.99 for takeout or delivery at bostonpizza.com.
5 minutes after the top of the hour, welcome back to the Illegal Curve post-game show. Drew Mandel, Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg with you on this Friday night. As I mentioned, coming up tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., our deep dive into the Winnipeg Jets, our weekly deep dive into the Jets, where we can take a macro look at the team rather than our micro looks on a game-by-game basis. It's the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. It's presented by Play Now. Tomorrow on the show, Christian O'Mell from CJOB 680 is going to join us, and we are also going to be joined by Frankie Corrado, who, of course, you know from the Jets on TSN broadcast. So it's a dang good show coming your way tomorrow morning. So be sure to join us at 9 a.m. for the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. Speaking of the Winnipeg Jets, here's some quotes courtesy of our buddy Mike McIntyre live on site in Vegas. I hope Mike has been he's been racking up the frequent flyer points. So hopefully he's been collecting those air miles or sky miles or Marriott rewards points or whatever it is he's using as he's been crisscrossing the globe or North America at the very least with the Jets. Here's Scott Arniel on Nikolai Ehlers and his injury. Quote, he's day-to-day. Not good, obviously. We'll just wait and see and get him looked at. We'll get to Dallas and see where we are at. I don't know 100%. Lower body right now, and we'll just see how he is Saturday. And after that,
do we all agree that it looked like it was ankle?
I don't even know.
Like,
it's hard to say.
It didn't look like it was a knee thing.
I don't think it was a knee, but the way he stretches, you wonder if maybe he felt something pull a little bit, maybe he felt something tweak in the groin. I mean, he was sort of hyperextended, and Lord knows when I hyperextend, I don't go back into regular form very easily.
You can do the splits though, Drew.
No, I may have injured myself emptying the dishwasher this week, but that's a separate issue entirely. We don't need to delve deep into. I don't think that Nikolai Ehlers does that, but it looked like maybe a hyperextension or a pull or something along those lines. I'm not a doctor. I just wear a T-shirt that says I'll take a look, but that's a separate issue. Like I said, entirely.
I once bought that T-shirt for a buddy of mine who's a chiropractor.
Yeah, well, he's not a doctor either.
And for the record, he wore it proudly.
Well, it's like being a proctologist. You need to have a good sense of humor. Hopefully, chiropractors sometimes take themselves a little too seriously. Yeah, exactly.
That guy got the Assman shirt.
Yeah, Dick Assman out there in the Saskatchewan, famous proctologist, or he wasn't really. I think he worked in the gas station, if I recall correctly. But he was on Letterman, if you remember that. If you want to,
I remember that. Yeah. That's like 30 years ago, Drew.
I'm old. What can I tell you? I'm old.
Well,
Scott Arniel on Logan Stanley and Dylan Coughlin over Ville Heinola and Colin Miller. Quote, the biggest thing is some fresh legs just because it's been such a grind here. Stan was back, ready to go, and we need him to be part of our group. Cogs had played here before. I thought those two were fine. Scott Arniel on the Logan Stanley play after the Morgan Barron giveaway. Quote, not so much on them on that one. It had a lot more to do with our turnover, but liked a lot of what they did in the game, not on that play. Anytime guys go in, they're a little bit rusty, but I thought they got stronger as the game moved along. So Scott Arniel, as he's usually been doing, taking a bit of a sunshine and puppy dog perspective, as you would expect. He's not going to throw his players under the bus, especially guys who are just back into the lineup for the first game in a long while. So he's sort of taking the half glass full approach, as he said to Dan Robertson, or as Dan Robertson tweeted out earlier tonight, that lot of the game Scott Arniel liked from the Jets' perspective. It's just that the breakdowns were so significant they ended up in the back of the net, Ezzy.
Right, and I like, will any of us be surprised if it's Ville Heinola and Colin Miller against the Dallas Stars, or at the very least, Heinola comes in? Like, I don't think the plan, Dave, was to put Dylan Coughlin in permanently here, right?
Right.
Even though I think we all agree, like, he had the first shot on net of the game, if I'm not mistaken, and I think he had, I don't forget if he finished with 2 shots or 3 shots, but he was out there on the second power play unit, and we talked about this when the Jets acquired Dylan Coughlin. It was kind of a sneaky good signing, right? Because he was in the Carolina organization, Dave, and even though the Moose, I don't think, played Springfield last year, he had something like 40 points in 60 games, right? So Dylan Coughlin's, if he's your 8th defenseman, that's a pretty good 8th defenseman, because based on how he played tonight, and that's not an easy situation to go into, right? First of the year against the top team in the Pacific. So let's give Dylan Coughlin,
he acquitted himself well tonight, I thought.
But Logan Stanley just, I don't think he had a horrible game, but we talked about it. There was that one sequence in the third period. He coughed up the puck twice, and obviously on Brett Howden's first goal, guys, it's the Morgan Barron turnover that is more of a problem with that. Logan Stanley, we're not faulting him on that play.
Barron puts him into a terrible situation,
right? So that I just wanted to get that in there. Like, that's not. I had no problem with that. I just think, Stanley, like, for a guy like him who doesn't play a lot for the Jets, or obviously because of injury, he can't be coughing the puck up in his own zone. That's the one thing that
the sequence you're talking about.
Yeah.
Sorry, as it was the sequence in the third period,
right,
where he was playing hot potato with the puck, and his problem is he loses composure in his own zone when things go awry.
And that's been a problem for him going back. I feel like
entire career.
I feel like we could have done this segment in 2022,
right.
guys, because
he hasn't
it's the same thing
beyond that.
Exactly, and that's what keeps him. That's most likely. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that Heinola comes back in the lineup for Sunday's game.
I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised if that's the case, and I think that would probably be the right move. That said, I wouldn't be shocked if it's Heinola with maybe even Coughlin on Sunday. But who knows? I mean, obviously the Jets are going to have to, piece this together. Nikolai Ehlers' status, a big question mark. All things we'll discuss in detail tomorrow morning on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. Mentioned the Moose. They lost 5-1, and the score maybe even flattered them, given that they didn't get a shot on goal in the second period in their game in Calgary tonight. And it was a bad night for the Moose. Dave will talk much more about that on tomorrow's Illegal Curve Hockey Show. We encourage you to join us. Coming up in 10 hours.
Should I correct all the things you just got wrong? They played in Winnipeg. They lost 6-1.
Okay. Close enough. Almost got it right.
Sure.
I got the part about the no shots on goal, though, right?
Yeah. That part was right. They didn't get any shots in the second period, which I don't ever remember. And they were being outshot 10-1 in the third period. But hey, if Jets fans are looking for one bright spot right now, 2024 6-rounder Kieran Walton had a 4-point night for Sudbury, and so Dave's prospect bumper is not ready yet, but I will say,
are you actually getting one ready?
No, but I'm just saying that that there's a lot of excitement for the 6'6" winger who seems to have put it together this season. He's 7th in the OHL right now in scoring, so he surpassed his buddy Kevin who didn't get anything for Niagara. But Kieran Walton, folks, remember when you see that name, you're like, why do we remember that name? It's because you here on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show or the Illegal Curve Postgame Show, we try and keep people up to date on what's going on with the prospects.
Because what a find in the 6th round for the Jets coaching scouting staff, though, eh?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And then the last thing I want to say is I want to thank everyone for bearing with us. We've upgraded the IC server and hit a bit of a snafu, unfortunately, this is what happens when all the tech is left to me. And so it's all up and running. We should have no more snafus and fast, lots of space. So we're good with IC for the next few years, at least.
There you go. Thanks for everyone for joining us tonight on the Illegal Curve post-game show. A particularly big thank you to all of our sponsors who make the post-game show, the Saturday show, and our new and improved website, A Possibility. That's our friends at Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club, Play Now, Holt Dental, Boston Pizza, City Place, and of course, Seagram's. Support these fine businesses because of their continued support of Illegal Curve Hockey. Jets drop a tough one, 4-3 in Vegas. Post-game coverage to come on illegalcurve.com. If you haven't already done so, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the podcast, tell your friends, tell your family. The best place to be after each and every Winnipeg Jets game. And again, on Saturday mornings is the Illegal Curve YouTube channel. For Dave Minuk, for Ezra Ginsburg, I'm your host, Drew Mandel. We'll see you in a little less than 10 hours with the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Have a great rest of your Friday night. Until 9 a.m., we wish you good night and good luck, and thanks for watching the Illegal Curve post-game show.